the work that you did around the Dakota pipeline.
Yeah.
And I found it really interesting that you're talking about a social issue that affects Indigenous people and has involved a lot of abuse and exploitation, and the way that you represented it was with sand and a heavy object, and I'd like you to talk about that.
Definitely. It's funny that you brought it up because I was gone in April to give a conference about this installation, particularly in Asheville, North Carolina. And my collaborator Jamie Crescent and I were invited to be part of this conference called Prisons, Borders, Pipelines towards the queer abolitionist movement, where there were a lot of activists and scholars that were kind of invited to think about these structures of power that are in place in our current society, oppressing, people of marginalized identities, and how together with either you're queer or from a certain ethnic background, how can you help each other overcome these structures of power? And that was kind of like the main idea that we had when we wanted to present the work on the Dakota Access Pipeline. We actually went to Standing Rock protest site without thinking about making art or anything else except from, we want to offer our support, and we have access to our community in California, the School of the Arts, wrong school, California College of the Arts, in San Francisco.
California
College of the Arts.
College of the Arts.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
To basically, we just kind of grab ask people for supplies, and we drove it all to North Dakota. That was about 2,000 miles. I think if I get my math right, it would it basically took us 3 days to get there, and of course we kind of divide the days. It's almost 10 hours drive each day, maybe something less. But anyway, so on the way there, it happened that we stopped by Spiral Jetty, which is a landmark by Robert Smithson in the 70s. And we were kind of just by chance encountered this steel pipe that was abandoned in the salt marshes. And so Jamie decided to bring it back. But it was really heavy to carry, so we started to row it across the salt. But the ground was really muddy. So it, from you think that it's an easy gesture, but it became quite burdensome. And so we each switched roles. One was holding the camera and the other one was rolling the pipe, and then we'll just switch when one becomes too exhausted. And kind of this back and forth was kind of an idea of a playful sharing of burden. And once we get to Standing Rock, that was when we just kind of became really overwhelmed by the gravity of the situation and the constant violence that the protesters had to face.
Were you there witnessing?
Yeah, so once we drop off the supplies, we set our own camp, and the sun just went down not long after, I think, and then we heard someone yelling for help. So these guys who we were kind of starting to chat with stood up and ran towards that sound, so we started running with them, and then we were just met with this mass of people heading towards this bridge. And the closer we got, we start to see that there's a police barricade that was set on the other side of the bridge with like projector lights and like
Was
drones.
there water?
Yeah, there's water.
I think I saw footage of that.
Yeah. So what happened was that prior to this, it's always been like a peaceful protest. But that day, the protesters were trying to remove a roadblock that was blocking the bridge because it was blocking access to emergency vehicles. And so once they did that, like the police saw it as an act of defiance, aggression. Yeah.
Right.
So
Even
they
though it was just
so
removing a roadblock.
I know.
Removing
It's
the
really
act of aggression.
No, and
right?
also
Like,
that's a good point. And also they've been
Yeah.
asking the city to remove it for like 2 weeks or something,
Wow.
and they didn't get any response. So,
That's just so like
yeah,
literally blocking a bridge.
right.
You know.
I know. Bridge to access to health and
exactly.
recovery. So anyway, so the police were, speaking on a speakerphone.
Plus, it's
Right.
like such a gaslighting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Setting it up. Like
Right.
You actually need to remove that blockage to save a life.
Right.
So, and at that point, they're gonna move in and say you're the aggressor.
Mhm.
Like it's just
I know.
so wrong.
Well, they're
Yeah.
just waiting
Yeah.
find like a moment where they could just retaliate, I guess. Because they've been stationed there for a while, and from what I've heard, they maintain like low flying planes over the camp so no one can sleep, and they also have like
That's
really
harassment.
bright
And
like flares.
intimidation. Yeah. That's torture.
I mean, exactly, like a mass torture.
Yeah.
But on that night, they were actually just shooting tear gas and water cannons at the protesters, saying, like, oh, you're on like private property, you're trespassing, so please remove yourself.
On a bridge.
Yeah, and I mean on Indian reservation,
Oh.
and so it was just like such a stark contrast between like this like robotic voice of the police, the tanks and everything, and then the bodies were protesters, like elders were drumming and like praying.
Yeah.
The smell of sage was everywhere, and people held together in this like cold, and it was like a pretty terrifying night, like mostly for their part, where they're putting their livelihood and their own lives on the string. So when we came back to San Francisco, the manager of the school galleries asked us if we could do something to share our experience of Standing Rock. And I mean, it is a hard subject. It is not our story to tell. We happen to be there. And so we were trying to think of a way where we could kind of like share this experience, but not speak for the people whose lives are actually being affected. So I guess we came up with this installation where we wanted to parallel, like bring it back into conversation about art and like the privileged space of art. And we wanted to compare Spiral Jetty with the space of Standing Rock, and how Spiral Jetty was conceived at the end of the 60s, where there was a lot of like civil rights movements going on in the cities and women's rights, gay liberation. But
beautiful act of minimalism in the
but
desert.
But it's
whatever,
like
right?
And that act
Yeah.
is actually kind of like effacing or like blatantly ignoring all these social political things that were happening, and who can afford to kind of cut themselves out of this social political reality, except from the cis man. And so us, like both my collaborator and I identify as trans, us going through that kind of monument for like this like ultimate manliness was an act of a transgression for us. And we wanted to question the legitimacy of like why this I guess like why this admiration, why this validation.
To an artist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's such a display of power. but in a quiet way, you know, like you're invited to come, but he's basically moved all the borders and rearranged them, so become like a new part of nature in a way. And in contrast to that, like the land and Standing Rock that is being over and over again contested, like. And I just want
what
to
if they wanted to put an oil pipe under the spiral jetty?
Right.
What would white people do?
I mean, and that's the thing where like the pipeline itself is another violent monument that would transgress that land. You know. And the land around Spiral Jetty is very toxic. There's a lot of like oil spills.
Oh, there are.
I know. So it's like this like weird mirror image of
so
what
there's a lot of
Standing
oil
Rock could be.
out there.
There's no tar.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
But also by the nature of the salt lake, because it's high on salt, like animals would come and die. Like birds would think that they can see fish and they would just dive in, but the water is actually very shallow, and so they'll just break their necks. And when the tide recedes, then you discover their like skeletons and stuff. It's really strange.
Really creepy.
But anyway, so I guess like that's how we kind of like got brought into like, oh, let's question this through a lens of like art and art privilege. So we had like the two monitors. One is footage from Standing Rock of that night that we had, and then another one, and facing it is our performance of rolling the pipe as Spiral Jetty, and in the middle we wanted to recreate that experience of rolling the pipe and the hardship of it. So we kind of created obstacle terrain with the sand and the steel pipe, and the viewers can come and like try to move it themselves. And it was funny because we invited a guest speaker to come moderate our conversation, and at first she was watching the video of us moving the pipe and she was like laughing at it. She's like, okay, it can't be that hard. And then she tried to move it and then she couldn't.
Wow.
I know. So that was like a nice kind of like, that's how we felt going to Standing Rock with all our naivete and idealism. Like, oh, we're going to bring them these provisions and how. And then we go there and like we're just hit with reality, like this is much larger than like, you know, you and I.
Well, I love like watching film or video. I think there's just so much in it. There's so many layers, and so I think the formal aspects were the ones that I was curious about. So that you were filming like the body from basically the body was involved in this, but you only saw part of the body involved in it, and that was ambiguous to being male or female. Right?
Yeah, that's good.
Which was nice, and then there were strong shadows in it, and I liked the fact that that there was a physical representation of what you were filming in that presentation. That was really cool. Very satisfying to like repeat that. To repeat that what you're seeing and recreate it in your own experience. That's neat.
Yeah, I think that's like what is hard with political art in general. Like, I feel like in certain ways there's like a hard balance to keep between representational, like being representational and then being didactic, like wanting to give facts, because you have to kind of honor the facts of that event, whatever it might be. But then art coming in can only be a text on a wall or like a drawing or things. And I feel like what is lacking always is this physical component of like what was, I guess, what would it be like to physically have felt? No, I mean, I'm thinking more of like a physical feeling.
You can do it through sculpture. You can do it through ceramics.
I mean, I think Well, but
You
then
can
that's
do
why
it.
I think that having the object, the steel pipe from that site, and then having it shown also on the screen
Yeah.
breaks that representational barrier.
Yeah.
Because you can both see it and
absolutely.
conceptualize how it was performed, but you can also
actually feel it.
yeah.
Yeah, you actually feel that force. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what
It's pretty neat.
both my collaborator and I were interested
Yeah.
in bringing this experience of empathy to the viewer, and not even like this, like kind of, oh my god, I can relate to this Standing Rock protest, or you know, but just to come into a space of I guess art for lack of better terms, and have your body be engaged with it similarly to how the bodies on screen are engaged.
Right.
You know, I feel like it's like a different step to understanding something that's overall very complex, like involving like histories of struggles and conflicts.
Interesting.
Without having to tell them what you think.
Yeah.
Because it's their own body that are experiencing it. Yeah.
Interesting. Huh. I don't think I've encountered sort of conceptual political work like that before. Usually it's not political. Right? So I like it, and it makes me very interested in it. And I've seen other examples of your work.
It's quite different.
That are experiential.
True.
So like you've built stairs where people meet equal. They're both going. That's fascinating.
Right,
that's a wonderful. You know, both people are elevated and but equal, right?
Right.
That's how it's made. Yeah.
That was my period of idealism when I still believe in equality.
Yeah, I was thinking because I have this friend who posted. She's an artist in New York who does welding.
Oh, cool.
And she makes these beautiful sort of burnt pictures, two-dimensional pictures with her welding thing. And one day she posted parody, a visualization of parody, which had a stair under someone. Yeah, so that the tall person could look over the fence and the shorter person could look over the fence.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, and that's parody. Huh. So, do you think your work's about taking charge? Do you think your work's
is about control.
It's about control.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was really hard for me to kind of like decipher that too, like, because I'm criticizing power, like a very specific masculine hierarchical power, but then I find myself desiring it too, and like my performative lectures, I kind of embody the architect or like the builder or the scholar,
right?
You know, and like those are could be positions of power, and a position of privilege.
That's right.
I don't know if you saw the one called Other Symmetries, where I was like speaking at a podium. That one was written in a way that it was very academic, and it was referred to obscure like mathematical equations and like linguistics and things like that.
Oh, okay.
And it was made like I made it totally absurd, you know. But a lot of like it's funny because like I feel like a lot of people were repelled by like the speech because it's so elitist. But then as I'm giving this speech, I enjoy it.
Well, I mean, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but then I also like while I'm giving the speech, I also like interrupt myself by like grabbing these books and like dropping them on contact mics that would just kind of like reverberate across the room.
Right.
Or
that's very disruptive.
I play with mirrors. I reflect like the projector onto the public, and like I move around a lot, so that it's not just like a linear thing.
Well, that's an echo of like the abuse of power. And that is so like environmental, right? Because I often get very like, design can be a obstructionist or very oppressive, right?
Right.
So, and that's a kind of power, right?
Yeah, and that's the kind of power I think it's most effective because it's so slight. It's part of your environment, so you don't notice it.
Yeah.
But how like this chair is constructed.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's making my body sit in such a way.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you say that is a certain form of power?
Is it?
Because it's exercising its self over you. Like you can't.
Yeah, the design of the chair.
Yeah, the design of the chair
is
forcing you to do something.
Body. Yeah.
And I feel like that's mostly what my works
I
investigate.
think it's designed for eating.
Well, but in a very fast setting though. Like at a bar, a counter bar.
Yeah,
like you're not sitting here.
Picking something up.
Yeah. It's like a really fast, like I'm not supposed to be sitting here for longer than
you're right.
an hour.
Yeah. I know. I want to get a couch.
Well, because those specific decisions you're making to create a certain environment.
Yeah.
This was
I think this was a space decision and a tea drinking decision. And then it became a discussion. So it's got to change.
Oh, cool.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.